We are renewing our collaboration with the festival in Parma. I'm Andrea from Fritto FM. I'm glad to be here again. I'm with Victor. Ciao, Victor.
Hello, hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very, very good, actually. Thank you.
How was your lecture? We tried.
It was good. The sound was great. So apparently there are some very good sound engineers at this place because it sounded awesome. And I also think that this whole place is very beautiful.
So. Yeah, it's actually pretty nice, pretty surprising. It's the second year for me to be in here.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised to see like a place like this out of like the European capitals.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I did a couple of shows before I came here, and it's been a descent towards nature. So I started out like very central in one city, and then a little bit outside one city, and now on the countryside. So it feels like coming home in a way, you know.
Actually, how it is like basically like most of your previous works always been like related so much with artists from Gothenburg. Are you from Gothenburg, like born and raised?
No, I'm not originally from Gothenburg. I've lived there for a whole bunch of years now, but I'm from the countryside, man. You know, like I grew up with like horses and stuff. So
yeah, I mean,
so I'm a country boy.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like how you feel like the surroundings influence you as an artist, and even like as probably as a listener and as an observer of all the subcultures that basically develop more like in the city and the metropolitan area.
Yeah, I've thought about that recently. Like, I think it's pretty common to make a distinction between nature and the city, like it's two different things. But actually, there's a lot of overlap. You know, like animal lives in the city too, plants grow in the city too. So I'm interested more in the in between. You know, like the areas that are a little bit of both, like the outskirts of the city, or when the countryside is on the way to the city, where things merge and become a little bit muddy. I think in the future we're gonna have a lot of places like that, you know.
And when you're looking for like influence, and when you are like in your like a creative moment, you prefer to be like in a metropolitan reality, so like overstimulated, or you prefer to be like on more reserved?
I'm a pretty reserved person. Like I'm very careful about what stimuli I put in, you know. Like I talked to my friend, one of the artists that are playing here just earlier, about, you know, this term, the attention economy, which sometimes describes like the industry of social media platforms or stuff like that, you know, like how attention is a valuable asset today, like something you have to be careful about, because everybody wants your attention all the time. So if you're mindful about your attention, and it can bring about a lot of good things, I think. You know.
Exactly. That was something that I was like curious about, because like when I been like doing like background check about you as a cotton mouth, I realized that basically you are like really discreet about your like social media presence. What moves you in these like times of hyper saturation of information to decide to have like such like a low key line?
I'm a pretty boring person, so I think that's probably not very good for my career, but I just lose interest in stuff like social media and things like that. I've started a newsletter in order to communicate with my listeners, but I'm pretty boring in there too, so like I don't know how much good that is for me, but I don't know, it's not like a conscious choice or anything. That's just the way I am as a person, you know. I guess, you know, like if I had a lot of things I wanted to write or say, I would be a writer, but I'm not a writer, I'm a musician, you know, like the music is the way I talk to people, you know, and the reason I make music is because that's the most effective way for me to say the things that I want to say, you know.
And that's really interesting because, like, alongside your music production, you work as a visual artist and as
Yes.
an art director, and you've been like following some really influent and highlighted artist. Which is the difference for you to like as a creative output as a music producer compared to how you work as an art director?
I mean, the underlying principles are mostly the same. You know, when you do creative work, you're driven by curiosity or like your intuition, and you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You don't want too much of this, you don't want too much of that, and you try to find some sort of balance that makes sense to you. So in that sense, it's almost the same. But then obviously design work, which is my my main source of income, it has a lot. It demands a certain sort of like practicality, because when you do design, there is like a end goal, something you must communicate. Like you must be able to read the text. The thing has to be visible or whatever. It serves a sort of practical purpose. Music is not practical in that sense. The only the only purpose of music is to listen to it, which is a lot more free, you know, than to produce something that is intended to be used in a certain way. So in that sense, it's very different, but where it comes from is the same, you know what I mean?
And since you've been working, as we said, like basically you're being coding like the visual language for some artists that like become like a really like a benchmark and an inspiration for like probably like our old generation. I think like most like many artists that you work with, there is somehow like even like an aesthetic code for like the Gen Z and for like all these like upcoming artists, and even just listen and observe. As it like for you working with like personalities that are so influent, has ever like represent for you like a limit, something that you have in somehow like you have to adjust yourself to what the people and the audience except for yourself, or you've been like feeling more free to still express yourself?
Well, I'm a pretty lucky person in the sense that I've gotten to work with a lot of interesting artists, most of which have a pretty strong identity and visual language even before I was in the picture. So it's more of a collaboration most of the time. Sometimes I work with people that needs more help or that specifically wants me to take the lead. But most of the time it's a dialogue, you know. So I can't take too much credit, because as an art director, my work is not to make stuff that I think looks good per se. It's more that I need to understand the music and figure out what's the best way to visualize that, whether or not that's my personal taste or not. But every time I do something that I feel resonates with the music and describes the music well, I feel like I've done a good job, you know what I mean? And then it becomes something I'm proud of, you know? So like over the years, my idea of what's good looking or not has become a lot more broad, you know?
And you feel more represented about from your music production or from your visual
Visual work, obviously. Like that's how I make a living. I mean, but I've never really tried to like become a big artist or anything. You know, like I've been playing it pretty low key, and music is very important to me. So I don't want to spoil it by trying to make it something it's not. You know, so I want my music to be free, and if it's gonna be free, that's most likely gonna mean that it's not gonna be like famous or anything, you know.
But since basically when you start to produce music, when was like the first interaction for you in with music? When you feel that for the first time you were like interacting with music and were like starting to be like, okay, I'm in the game.
Like many people in my generation, I like had Fruity Loops on my like mom's computer or something like that when I was a kid, you know, and did stuff just for fun without the intention of ever showing it to anyone, because I had a very clear idea that my future was not as a musician but as a music fan. I had made that distinction pretty early because I have no formal music education or whatever. So I thought like I'm always going to be a music fan. I'm not a musician, so whatever I make is just going to be for me. But then I met one of my closest friends who I later started a band with, and he...
We're talking about Team Rocket?
Yes, exactly. One of the members from there, and he had made a lot of music already. And for some reason he said like, I have a new project and I want you to be in it. And I was like, why? I don't know anything. And he was like, no, you're just the right sort of person, you know, like personality-wise. And that really inspired me. I felt like, oh, maybe I can become a musician and not only a music fan. And then I became very motivated to learn. And I'm a pretty nerdy person, so when I decide to like focus on something, I read a lot and study it. So then I learned the software that we used at the time, and we started making music.
And with the other members from Team Rocket, you share also like a visual background, because I remember when you debut with like some kind of video game. I read something about that.
Yeah, all of us have backgrounds in art school and stuff like that. So we're all visual artists as well in one sense. I think what you're referring to is our fourth album, which has an alternate reality game attached to it, which was like a concept around the album where we kind of built our story around the album that was spread across the internet in forums and the backwaters of the internet for fans to find clues and stuff like that. So that was fun.
And what moves you now to go on solo?
I mean, like all of us in my band are solo artists as well, and I think I'm the last one to take the leap to do stuff solo, mainly because I just haven't had the time and didn't really know where to begin. But then my computer crashed and all my plugins disappeared, and I had to start over from scratch, and I was fascinated by the limitations. So I started out by just using audio and no plugins, like just manipulating audio files. And that's how I made the first Cottonmouth EP. And then as it progressed, I added more stuff. And now it's pretty far removed from that, actually. But it was this kind of, all my dear, valued, cracked plugins disappeared, and then I had to start over. So it was kind of like a cleansing, experience.
And I'm pretty curious about your name, because Cottonmouth, in something that is like an expression that is like stoner related? Why did you choose that?
I didn't know that actually. I'm such a naive person. Like cottonmouth is the name of a snake. You know, it's a species of snake that's called cottonmouth. It's a snake that can swim in water. You know, and I like snakes, so I was like, that's a pretty poetic name because it sounds like someone who speaks lightly. You know, and then I chose that name because I like snakes. And then everybody was like, oh. 420 blaze it, and I was like,
I was hoping about that.
I didn't even
I don't
know
know
that.
if like the audience understand what we were talking about, but basically like cottonmouth is like the English expression that could be like similar to being allappato.
Yeah.
We say like lingua felpata, means like when your tongue is like wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
And it's basically when you have like the dry mouth
Yeah.
after like a smoking session.
Yeah, that it has nothing to do with that. It's just a cool snake.
And basically, how is for you to have like your, because like in music, I always think that like basically in music we have like this kind of like different jet lag, where the people don't wake up in the morning, they always like around at night, and they are like more productive during the night. You're more like a day person or night person?
I'm definitely a day person. Again, I'm pretty boring. So I wake up, I drink coffee, and I do stuff from 9 to 5, and then I chill. You know, like I'm not like a late night studio guy. I'm pretty rigid in my routines. I need to have routines in order to get stuff done. Otherwise, I just lose my focus and I start doing other stuff.
That's pretty nice. I think it's like a good balance between like the two different lives that you go down as an artist.
Yeah, sure.
I was getting on with touring. Yeah, it's been good with tours. Any like good memories or even like bad memories about like being around as a solo artist?
I mean, in all honesty, I've only played like 7 gigs or something as a solo artist, so I still haven't exactly figured out exactly how I want to perform my music live. When you make all your music in the computer, obviously you can just play a button and everything just performs for you, and you can just stand there and look like an idiot. But then the crux is to figure out how to make it fun for you, you know, how you can have something to do and engage with the music. So that's what I've been experimenting with. So I've been trying out different stuff, but today I played here, obviously. Yesterday I played in Barcelona, and the day before that in Lisbon, and it was very nice. Like I'm a bit mind-boggled that people listen to my music, you know, out in the world, you know.
Yeah, it's always like a pretty I think a pretty like a special feeling when basically you're like more like a bedroom producer, like a bedroom artist, and you realize that basically you're like having like an influence with all the people, and it's about like you're even like leading, like even creating something for like a community that you can even like get in touch with.
I think it's like that with all my creative work, you know, even if it's music or visual art or whatever it might be. I just make all of that stuff in my little office in the town where I live, and I'm mostly by myself every day and don't meet a lot of people. And then all of a sudden you see that it actually exists in the real world, whether it be through touring or if I make an album cover for someone and suddenly it's a billboard in LA or whatever, and you're like, shit, this is real, you know. Like it's crazy, but there's this sort of like discrepancy between doing stuff on your own and then seeing that it's actually out there, you know. But I think that's good. I don't think you should think too much about your audience, you know. I think you should focus on the thing you're doing and why you like doing it.
And what stands for you when you're looking for artists to collaborate with, or what stands for you when you're like, what surprised you, what like make your life It's about like for any like music and visual artist. What are you looking in the people that you, in the artists and in the people that you want to interact with, or you just like get into the works?
It's different. I mean, like obviously, I have to make a living, so I can't be too like rigid about who I decide to work with. But most of the time, I'm lucky enough to have people I respect and like reach out to me and that wants to work. I like people that do something that feels honest and feels like it. They put themselves out there, like they take a chance to be vulnerable or to try something different or to like they take a risk by being themselves a little bit, and that's usually what engages me to to do the same basically.
Who was the last artist that basically surprised you in any creative and artistic field?
I'm lucky enough to know a lot of very talented people, so I'm surrounded by brilliant artists that play me amazing things all the time. But my wife is is an artist too, and I get to hear her demos all day long, and that's obviously a blessing because she's extremely talented. So that's one thing. Other than that, there is an acquaintance, a friend of mine called Oliver. His project is called Ollie Excel.
Oh wow, yeah.
His record came out at long last pretty recently, and I think it's very good. He's a brilliant producer, and
I think many of us was waiting for their release.
Yeah, it's
because since they signed for World Records.
Yeah.
They had like to wait a pretty long time.
Yeah, it was this whole situation, but I just think that he's really good, and he's a very honest artist. I think that does exactly the kind of thing that he wants to do, and I think that's nice.
And any other city where you would like to live?
Not really. I mean,
Gothenburg is your place.
When I was younger, I had all these dreams of living in different cities because they were cooler or better or had better clubs or shit like that. But that doesn't matter in the end to me all that much. What matters is that you live somewhere where you're comfortable and you get to have the peace of mind to do what you want to do, whatever that is, and then you are free to travel or go meet people at other places and stuff like that. I think it's more important to me to just be able to focus on my work and like be comfortable and don't live in a super expensive city, because most of my days is work, obviously, like most of life is just normal days. So why would I choose to live somewhere just because I want to go out to a pool club like every second weekend? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like life is comprised of all the ordinary days, so I want my ordinary days to be nice.
Which is the best moment for you in your ordinary life when you're not working on music or working on visual stuff?
I take a lot of walks, I'm a walker, so...
Me too.
I've recently got into birding, like bird watching, so I like birds. I have my little binocular and I watch birds and I write a little book, what I see. I like that. Birds are like flying analog synthesizers. They have the most amazing sound palette that you can ever dream of. These amazing creatures, and they're so cool. And I grew up with Pokemon and stuff like that, and I fell into a deep depression when I was 12 because I realized Pokemon could never be real, and real life is so boring, and I can never live in the Pokemon world. Well, bird watching is like a revenge because it's like Pokemon,
And that like breakthrough moment when you realized that Pokemon could not be living. It was when you started to do like your work as a visual, because it's somehow like as an art director and graphic designer, you're like design something that sometimes doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I think I was pretty much escapist. So I try to focus on like escaping the real world as much as possible through various means, whether it be video games or movies or stuff like that. But the fun thing is that all of that stuff eventually brought me closer to the real world. You know, like video games was an entryway into like art and philosophy and religion and stuff like that, and movies was a gateway into much of the same. And like what starts out as escapism suddenly turns into like appreciation for real life.
Yeah, that's pretty like an interesting point, because in somehow like when you watch movies, when you watch like any kind of like made up reality, is like a surrogate of some like experience that you cannot have like in your daily life.
Yeah.
So in somehow, yeah, it could be help you to like focus on values and really living true experience that cannot happen to you.
Yeah, definitely. Like real life is crazy. Real life is full of awesome stuff. So it's all there, you know.
And to closing this interview with this like kind of like journalistic tone, what we should expect from Cottonmouth, especially Victor, future? Something that we are not can expect, or something that is like tickling your mind lately?
I'm probably gonna make more music, images and stuff like I always do, because that's just what I do. Probably gonna play live more, because people seem to want that, so I'm not gonna oppose. Other than that, I'm gonna release music with a slightly tighter pace, I think, and not be too perfectionistic about stuff. You know, me and Christina Charles, my band, we have started a co-op, basically, where we help each other out to self-release our music. So it's a way of empowering each other to do stuff on our own and just release music whenever we feel like it, and help each other out in all the practical aspects that comes with that. So I hope to release more music and be involved in their music too, releasing that.
Molto bene. Have you already chosen the dessert you're gonna have for dinner? Because Victor is actually waiting for the dessert.
Dessert, yes. I'm fine though. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thanks. Thank you. That was cute.
Yeah, was it good?
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
Happy that you enjoyed that.
Yeah.